Hello, and welcome to this lovely session for your healthy feet. Sometimes we get pain in our feet and we don't know why. We shove them in shoes and we expect them to just support us throughout our day. And sometimes it can feel a bit weird when we take our shoes off at the end of the day. Sometimes we rub our feet and wonder if there's a bit of a bruise. The arch of the feet might feel sore. So hopefully some of these movements today that I'll be going through will help you unwind some of the tension that you might have accumulated during your little lifetime of walking on the planet and experiencing this life through your feet. So come and find a safe place to lie on the floor, maybe on a mat or on a towel, something comfortable, maybe on a blanket. And if it's okay for you, have nothing on your feet at all, so you're barefoot. So no socks, no shoes. If you feel like you want to have socks on, then fine. If it makes you feel uncomfortable not having socks. But just so you can actually allow your feet to feel the surface that they are on. So start by bending your knees for a moment. We'll stretch the legs out in a second, but just start by bending your knees for a moment and allow your feet to feel the surface that they're on. So imagine if you were doing this with your hands, if your hands were touching the surface that you're on, you would have this sensation coming back through feeling the palm underneath your fingers, the pads of your fingers, your thumbs. And you might feel it in one hand more than the other. But can you allow the same sensation to come from your feet? Can you sense the texture of the floor or the carpet, or if you're lying in your bed, or if you're sitting, or if you're in your office, or in your kitchen, or in your front room, or in your bedroom, or maybe you're outside in the garden and your feet are on the decking or on the grass, maybe even on the beach. Luxury, lying on the sand. And just noticing if you can actually sense what is underneath your feet, underneath your heels, underneath the balls of the toes, underneath the toes themselves, if you're aware of one toe more than the other, or maybe one foot more than the other. Interesting, huh? If you've ever had any sprains in your feet, ankles, broken toes, broken ankle, there will be a shift from that injury or those injuries. Shifting your brain would have shifted your way off that site of injury so it can heal. And sometimes your brain needs reminding, even though the injury might have healed, sometimes it needs reminding that it's okay to use that foot again to bring the weight back. Sometimes we're actually not walking on our feet equally. And so that's where we're going to start. So just lengthen your legs out and rest for a moment. So you can sense the length of your legs, the back of your heels. Because our feet are in shoes most of the day, that we don't really sense how our feet naturally relax. Maybe when you're lying in bed, you've got the weight of a blanket or a duvet over you, and that will affect how you hold your feet. So does one of your feet roll out more than the other or roll in more than the other? And you can sense that by noticing the back of your heel. Do you have more weight on the outside edge of one of your heels or the inside edge of one of your heels, or are they more or less in the middle? And you're not trying to correct it. You're just noticing the difference without feeling that you're trying to make them the same. It's not about noticing things in order to feel that you're doing something wrong. It's just noticing how you tend to relax, how it feels in you today. It could be different tomorrow, could have been different yesterday. You're just sensing. And now if you bend your right knee, so your left leg is going to stay out long on the ground and just bending your right knee. So your foot is what we're going to call standing. Okay. Sense the ground, the surface, the texture, what you can feel underneath your foot. And then just for a few times, lift the inside edge of your foot And by the inside edge of your foot, I mean where the big toe is, and the inside of the heel and the arch. So when you lift the inside edge of your foot, you're rolling the weight onto the outside edge. So there'll be more weight on the little toe and onto the outside edge. So your big toe will lift, but don't make it a huge movement. Don't feel like you've got to do that all the way. Don't make it a small movement. So more information gets sent back to your brain from the very first part of the movement. When initiating that movement of the lifting, your brain will actually sense, even before you've lifted, there's things going on. Your brain will sense, is it safe to do this? How am I going to do this? What do I need to recruit? What's going to be helping? And if something isn't quite switched on because of any injuries or how we hold ourselves or the shoes that we wear or how we sit, any sort of stub toes or anything like that, even going back to when you were a kid, if there's something that the brain isn't quite picking up on, then it will go somewhere else in the foot to try and find that stability. But maybe there's somewhere else in your body that you'll find is trying to stabilize you as you lift that inside edge and let it lower. So could you check that your jaw isn't clenching, that you're not holding your breath? And I'll remind you throughout the session of this, because sometimes you might find that in order to find stability with our feet, we might tighten up in the hips, and the hips are very closely related to the jaw, so we might find some tension in our mouth or in your tongue. So can you find a softness in your face as you lift and lower that inside edge of your foot? And notice how you breathe when you do it. Do you breathe in as you lift the foot, or do you breathe out? And then let that go. And then do the outside edge. So lift the outside edge and let it go. So notice that I haven't said anything else about your knee. You're probably moving your knee, and that's totally fine. Just lift the outside edge of your foot and then bring it back down. And when you lift the outside edge of your foot, your little toe is going to lift. So you're rolling the weight onto the inside edge. And notice if this feels easier, trickier than when you're lifting the inside edge. Are you holding your breath this time? What's your jaw doing? Are you relaxing your hands? What's the other foot doing? And then let that go. Notice the ground again underneath your foot. And go back to where you started with this lifting of the inside edge, but don't move your knee. So lift the inside edge. You might need to make the move a lot smaller. Keep the knee still. So the movement comes from more of the tiny little bones and muscles in your foot, the ligaments and that ankle. Tiny movement, lifting and placing it back down. And just noticing how it moves without the help of your knee. And do you feel that movement going up into your ankle? Can you feel it a little bit into that ankle? Can you feel the weight shifting onto that outside edge? Are you breathing differently now that the movement requires more awareness and attention? And let that go. Pause for a moment. And then lift the outside edge of that foot without moving your knee. Outside edge lifts and releases. So your knee has nothing to do with helping you move your foot. Not in this particular movement that we're teaching. Just the outside edge lifting, your little toe comes off and then it comes back down. You might feel that movement going up onto the front of your foot. You might feel the ankle shifting a little bit. You might even feel it moving a little bit around the lower part of your leg, in the lower leg. How are you breathing as you do this? Is your jaw up to? And just check in with yourself every now and again just to make sure that you're not compensating somewhere. Here you go. And then let that go. Rest the foot completely, rest the leg. Toes out straight alongside the other one. And just notice what you sense. If you can, feel, sense if there's any difference in that right leg compared to your left leg. Maybe you can't feel anything at all. And sometimes when you practice these little lessons, you'll sense something. Sometimes you really pick up on a difference, and then sometimes it might bypass you. And that's totally fine because there's little things that are happening underneath the layers. So before we do the other foot, come back to bending that knee again, the right knee, with that foot on the floor, and allow that foot to do the lifting of the inside edge. Let the knee stay still, bring the foot down, and then the lifting of the outside edge, and then bring the foot down. So you're alternating between the inside edge and the outside edge, but keep the knee stable. Okay, so the knee stays steady, and it's just that gentle rolling. Like a little boat on the ocean, rocking over the water, just gently rolling, feeling that movement maybe in the middle of your foot, maybe in the ankle, maybe noticing it in the heel like we did just now. Just exploring and being curious without feeling that you're trying to make it perfect. So many times in exercises, we're thinking that we should be perfect in doing something, and we've got so many reps to do, and so many sets, and it's got to be done like in 10 sets or 2 sets and always different repetitions. And so just be more curious about your movement now. In these little lessons, it's more about curiosity and exploring. You understand more about you, and then when you're aware of things, things can change. Sometimes we're so stuck in our movement patterns, we don't know what's going on until there's pain. Maybe you've got pain, and that's why you are doing this little lesson today about your feet, to help your feet and your ankles. Okay, so let that go. Rest now for a moment. Take a break. Take a nice break. Yeah. Take a rest, take a break. Let that leg stretch out. And notice if you have more awareness on that right side now compared to your left. And it could be awareness not just in your foot. It might be up in your hip. Might be all the way up into your shoulder. Might be even on the right side of your face. Because when you look at anatomy pictures of the fascia, there's connective tissue underneath your foot. It connects underneath your toes, all the way back up your leg, into your pelvis, all the way up your spine, all the way up your neck, the back of your head, onto the front of your forehead. Interesting, yeah. Okay. So let's see what happens when we do the other foot, okay? Because there might be something going on in the other foot. And sometimes when we've got pain in one foot, it doesn't always mean that that's the foot that's the issue. Sometimes it could be that foot that's overworking because the other foot isn't working too well. So bend your left knee, your right leg stays rested, out long. And if at any time that right leg feels uncomfortable being straight, you can always bend it. So just gently lifting and lowering the inside edge of that left foot. Let your knee move, and you'll find that when your knee does move, the foot moves a little bit more, yes? Get a little bit more movement in that foot. Relax your jaw, don't hold your breath. And try not to scrunch your toes up. Just being aware that your toes sometimes might have a bend. If you find that your knuckles are more pronounced than your toes, you might find that's a way of your brain trying to find some stability, of scrunching up your toes and tightening up the muscles and the fascia underneath your foot, because it's not it's kind of lost some kinds of stability somewhere else in the body. So see if you can just allow this movement of the lifting of the inside edge without your toes bending, so they're completely relaxed. So that's another kind of compensation pattern you're looking out for. And you can only notice these things when you slow down and you do it carefully, gently, and with awareness. If you're rushing, doing always, I've got to get another 10 moves in and I've got another 5 sets to do, then you kind of miss what's happening. So now let that go for a moment. So your foot is back in the middle. Notice the surface of the ground that you're on, the surface, the texture. And then let the outside edge lift and lower. Let the knee move. And notice if it feels different to the other foot. Does it have more movement? Less movement? Does it feel the same? Can't tell the difference. Just notice that outside edge lifting and lowering. Can you do that without holding your breath, clenching your jaw? To notice what changes in the midfoot and what changes in the heel. The little awareness, the small bones, muscles, the muscles and the bones in the feet we don't pay attention to. And they're in our shoes, but we expect them to carry us throughout our day. And they are telling us a lot about the world. Look how much we were touching our feet and moving our toes when we were babies. They didn't stop moving our toes, and now our feet stay very still. So now come back to the middle. Keep your knees still for a moment. You're going to come back to that inside edge of that left foot. Can you lift the inside edge of that left foot without moving your knee now? And then let the foot come back down. So the inside edge of the big toe will lift and then you'll lower, but the knee stays steady. Don't let the knee fall out. Is it easier on this foot with the knee not moving, or is it much harder? And if you feel that you're trying to lift the foot a little bit more because you don't have the movement of the knee, if you feel like, oh, I can't move my foot as much, and it's creating effort somewhere in your body, so reduce your range of movement, even if you have to reduce it so you're just imagining it. It becomes just a thought. Such a small movement for lifting and lowering, very tiny. So if I was in the room with you, I could hardly see that you were doing anything at all. And you wouldn't get told off for not moving. So if you have memories of you were a child for not doing enough or being lazy or not moving enough, then this will bring back kind of little memories of things like that, and you'll feel like you should be doing more. So more isn't always better. More with awareness and focus and knowing what you're doing, fine. But in this case, sometimes we don't really know what we're doing and what's moving. We have to slow down and do less effort, more awareness and more attention to actually feel it. And then our brain and nervous system can actually make changes. And then pause in the middle. Yeah. Can you sense the ground underneath you? Can you sense your breath, the length of your spine, the room that you're in? And then lift the outside edge of your foot and bring it down. So very gently, outside edge lifts and lowers. So you're rolling the weight onto the inside edge, taking it easy. So there's not a huge movement. You don't feel that you're trying to achieve something. I know this goes against usual exercise classes and things like that, but that's one of the reasons why I like these lessons. It's not like you're trying to get a gold star, or you must do a tick and say, I've done so many repetitions and so many sets here. I'm not going to get better unless I do this. So just slowing down, less effort, more ease. And then you will achieve a lot more. Oh, yes, a lot more changes will happen. Especially when you get up after the session, you go walking around and you get on with your day. And so I'm going into the next day, and things will start to kind of fall into place. To come back to the middle. So let's just stay on this left foot for a moment without your knee moving, and lift and lower the inside edge. So without your knee moving, lift and lower the inside edge. So you just feel that the movement's small. And see if you can do it without moving at all, but just imagine you're lifting and lowering that inside edge. Imagine you're doing it. How does it feel if you actually didn't move? It's just your imagination on that inside edge of that left foot. Your knee's not doing anything. And then let that go. And then imagine it's the outside edge of that left foot lifting and lowering. Just imagining. There's a lot of stuff going on in your brain here. There you got one. By just imagining the movement. It's a powerful, powerful tool. So let that go. Let your leg stretch out for a moment. Let it rest and notice how your left leg feels compared to your right. Maybe it's starting to catch up now. does the heel rest? Does it feel different to how the heel was resting when you first started? Okay, so come back and bend that left knee again. And we're going to alternate between inside edge and outside edge. So keep your knee steady. Lift the inside edge of that left foot. Place it back down. Lift the outside edge of the left foot. Place it back down. Go back to the inside edge. Place it back down. The outside edge. Place it back down. So you're alternating. But taking it steady because you don't want the knee to move. And again, if you feel like, oh, it's too much or if it's painful, imagine the movement. So how does it feel on this foot compared to your right foot when you were doing the rolling in and rolling out on your right foot? Does it feel different now you're on your left foot? Okay, let that go, let that leg stretch out and just take a break. Let's take a break, have a rest, pause for a moment, just see how you feel in your feet. So we can do something a bit weird. We're going to do a leather movement. We're going to incorporate both legs. Okay, so bend your right knee. Okay, and bend your left knee as well. So both feet are standing. And notice where the gap, the distance between your right sit bone and the back of your right foot, as if it was a bridge. Yeah, so as if there was an arch. So if it was just your right knee that was bent, imagine that it's like an archway or a bridge. So allow your left knee, because your right leg's going to stay where it is, it's bent, your foot's on the floor. You're going to let your left knee, as it's bent, fall out to the left side. Doesn't have to be a huge amount, just let it fall out, let it stay there. And then let your left foot go underneath the bridge that you've created by bending your right knee. So your right knee is bent, your foot's on the floor. Your left knee is bent, your left knee is out to the side, and your left foot is very slightly going underneath the arch that you've created. Imagine that you're little kids and you're playing with your cars, and your left foot was a little car, and it's going underneath the bridge, the archway of that right knee. So let's say that was the right knee, then my left foot will go underneath it, and it's going to stay there. Okay, if you're there already, it's just staying there. So be in a position that's comfortable for you. It doesn't have to be all the way through. It might just be a little bit, so you want to be comfortable. So can you, with that right foot, lift the outside edge, put it back down, and then lift the inside edge and put it back down very gently. Just the right foot rolling in and rolling out. Lifting one edge of the foot, putting it down, lifting the other edge of the foot, putting it down. Your left foot staying underneath like a little car onto the bridge. Lovely. So don't move the position that you're in, but could you put your right foot now on top of your left foot? So your left knee is bent, it's out to the side. You might want to move your foot a little bit if it doesn't feel right. So your left knee is out to the side, your foot's there, and your right knee is bent. And can you put your right foot on top of your left foot somehow so it feels reasonably comfortable? If you've got a blanket, you could put a blanket underneath your right foot, resting on top of your left foot. And then could you do that same movement of lifting the outside edge and lifting the inside edge of your right foot, which is now on top of your left foot. Ooh, it might not be actually on the top of the foot, like on the back of the hand, like the top of the foot. It might just be on the edge. Yes, on the edge. Yeah. So your right foot is just rolling in and rolling out. Let your knee move. Can you let your knee move? And notice when you do this and you allow your knee to move, can you feel your femur moving all the way up inside your hip socket? It's really interesting movement. It's lovely to feel. And then let that go, rest, stretch your legs out before you kill me. Because for some people, that might be a little bit uncomfortable. Oh, can you breathe? Excuse me. So I think we can do that on the other side. Uh-oh. Bend your left knee so your foot is standing. Bend your right knee so your foot is standing. Take a moment to notice the ground that you're on. And let your right knee fall out to the side. So your foot's resting on the outside edge. And notice the gap that your left knee has created by being bent, like a little bridge, a little arch. And imagine that your right foot is the boat or the car that's going underneath it. So your right knee stays out and let it rest somewhere there. And with your left foot, allow it to roll in and out. So your left foot's on the floor at the moment and you're just letting it roll in and out. Yeah. So it's nothing too crazy, she says. And this is just creating more of a different movement in the ankle, talking to your knee, talking to your hip in this position. There's a method in my madness. Don't hold your breath. Notice if you are holding your breath. Notice what happens if you let go of that and if you let go of your jaw. Does it create more movement or freedom in your feet? And then let that go. And can you allow that left foot to now rest on your right foot? So your right knee is still out to the side, more or less. And you're resting on the outside edge of your right foot, but can allow your left foot to sit on top of your right foot and roll that left foot in and out. Doesn't have to be, again, doesn't have to be a huge movement. If it's really ouchy, you can imagine it. You can rest at any time. Just check you're not holding your breath. Yeah. Let the knee move on that left side. Oh, and that's enough, isn't it? Okay, let it go. Stretch your legs out. Take a short break. Rest for a moment. Rest, rest, rest. Thank goodness. Because when they do that again, but a similar way. So if you have got a blanket, have a blanket handy, just in case this way feels a little bit ouchy. You can put it underneath your foot to rest on your inner lower leg. So come back to bending your right knee, and then bend your left knee so your feet can feel the floor. Let your right knee fall out to the side and come back in, and let your left knee fall out to the side and come back in. So do a few of those so you feel that as your knee rolls out to the side, you feel the foot rolling out onto the outside edge, yes? Nice, huh? Nice. Just rolling onto the outside edge. And you do that a few times. And the next time you do that on the right knee, let it stay there. So you're on the outside edge of your right foot. And then let your left knee do the same. So both knees have rolled out. You have your feet fairly close towards each other. So the soles of the feet are fairly close. And notice your left lower leg from the knee down to the ankle. Now, could you lift your right foot and rest it somewhere along that left lower leg? Could be near the ankle, could be halfway up, could be near the inside of the knee, doesn't matter, anywhere that feels that you could possibly leave it there for a minute or so, or maybe a few seconds. And this is where the blanket comes in handy, because if you put a blanket underneath that right foot, so it's resting on your left lower leg, it might not feel as ouchy. So if you feel that it's like pressing on a bruise and feel sensitive, you might need that blanket. And then with that right foot, guess what you're going to do? You're going to allow it to roll. So as if you were lifting the outside edge, putting it back down, and then lifting the inside edge and putting it back down, which is going to feel a bit weird. So that whole foot's rolling. The knee, let the knee move. So the movement goes all the way up your femur into your hips. If it was your arm, with your hand moving over your arm, it would be rolling all up into your shoulder. It's quite a nice movement for your elbow and your shoulder. If you're imagining that rolling. Sometimes we're quite sensitive in the lower leg as well, for various reasons, which I won't go into now, but notice. Let that go. Stretch your legs out. Because you can do the other side. Oh, but not just yet. Just rest for a moment. And then bend your left knee. Then bend your right knee. Just for a few little moves. Let the left knee fall out to the side. Bring it back in. Let the right knee fall out to the side. Bring it back in. So you're just rolling onto the outside edge and then putting it down again. Notice if there's one knee that feels easier to move. How far out do they go? Okay, so next time the left knee falls out, let it stay there. The next time the right knee falls out, let it stay there. So the soles of the feet are fairly close. Use the blanket over that right lower leg if you want to. Lift the left foot and let the outside edge of your left foot rest somewhere along that inside edge of your right lower leg. And roll that left foot in and out. Slowly, so you don't need to hold your breath. You don't need to clench your jaw. Notice if you are. And then let it go. Take a short break, rest. Pausing for a moment. Let your legs stretch out. Oh, that's hard work. Okay. We're going to start to incorporate a little bit of movement into the head now. Yeah. Because sometimes when we've got pain or a restriction in our ankle or in our lower leg, there's this fascia, that line of fascia, that connective tissue that comes up from the outside of your foot up your ankle, all up the side of your body and comes up into the side of your neck. Sometimes we get this restriction in our neck or one side and maybe too much movement in the other, or the other way around, or both sides, because there's something going on in the ankle. Our neck's trying to find some kind of stability because it's not feeling it on the ground. So we're going to do a little bit of neck movement now. So bend your right knee so your foot's back on the ground, and bend your left knee so the foot's back on the ground. And just take a moment here with your feet in standing to notice the ground that you're standing on, the surface, the texture, how you are breathing. Let your right knee fall out to the side. Yeah. And then let your right knee stay out to the side. Keep the left leg bent and go back to this position that we had earlier, where that right foot is like a boat or a little car, and it's just going underneath the left knee. Again, it doesn't have to be all the way, just for a place where you feel comfortable. Okay, it could be a little bit, the whole foot could be under. Depends on how you feel on this foot. So there'll be a little bit of shifting of weight in the pelvis, maybe tiny amount, or you might notice it, but not so you feel uncomfortable. If you feel that there's too much effort, then reduce the range so it feels as if you're just doing it with less effort and more ease. Okay, so your right foot is underneath more or less. So put your left hand on your forehead, that's resting flat on your forehead, and allow the left hand to move your head so it turns to the left, and allow your hand to move your head so you look to the right. You turn the head, but without feeling that you're actually turning the head. It's your hand that's moving your head. So when you pull the head with your hand to look to the left, your fingertips will be on your forehead. You won't need the rest of your hand, the heel of the hand. And then the whole of your hand comes back onto your head when it's in the middle. And then your fingertips will lift as you turn the head to the right, and you're on the heel of your hand. And you just go back and forth like that, turning the head one direction to the other, with the right knee just resting out there to the side. Okay, so as you're doing this turning with the head, could you allow that left foot to roll in and out? It's going to feel a bit weird. So I'm going to allow the outside edge of your foot to lift and then lower, and then the inside edge of your foot to lift and lower as you continue to move your head. And you might notice there's a bit of a pattern. You might lift the inside edge of your foot as your head turns to the left, and you might come out to the middle with everything, and you might turn your head to the right as you lift the outside edge of that left foot. So just notice if you get into that rhythm, can you break that rhythm and turn your head in the opposite direction? So as you roll the foot in, could you turn the head away towards the left? And as you let that left foot roll out, could you turn your head to the right? So opposite of what feels comfortable, not comfortable, but not with pain, but what feels like you're working in a rhythm. So you have to think about it. You might just stop and, yes, going the other way. A bit like patting your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. And if you've done any of the other sessions to do with the hands and things like that, linking the fingers in the non-habitual way. This is like we're just doing the non-habitual way of allowing the neck to find a different way of moving without talking too much with them, but feeling them, sensing what's going on in the foot. To keep the foot moving, take your left hand away and put your right hand on your forehead, and now move your head with your right hand as that left foot moves in and out. And go as slow as you need to go. Notice again if there is a natural rhythm that you've picked up on. You might notice that the nose might follow what the arch is doing. So then go against that. Go in the opposite way. So when the arch is dropped down and they rolled in, looking away from the foot. And when the arch is lifted and the weight's on the outside edge, you turn the head to the right. How's your brain? Are you holding your breath? Are you thinking too much? Do it slowly. So you're kind of breaking that pattern, that rhythm. Okay. So let it go. Stretch your legs out for a minute so you can have a break from all that concentration and that awareness. It's hard work, yeah. You'll be sweating in a minute. So let's see what happens if we change our feet over. Let's find out. Let's be curious about the other side. Like experiment way. So bend your knees. And just let the knees fall out. So you had your right foot under. So now it's your left foot that's going underneath your right arch, your right bridge. And your left foot is the car or the boat, and it's gone slightly or more underneath the arch of your right knee, right leg that's bent, right foot's on the floor. And just let your right foot now roll in and roll out. Back your jaw and notice if it feels different to the other side or how we did it when we did it earlier. Did it feel different? Relax your jaw. And then can you put your, let's do the same hand as the foot. So put your right hand on your forehead. And as your right foot rolls in and out, let your right hand turn your head from one side to the other. And notice again where that rhythm is your head follow a natural rhythm of what your foot's doing. And then can you break that rhythm? Maybe the direction of the head matches the foot. So now could you make it unmatch the rhythm of the foot? Interesting. Oh, I can see it a little bit trickier. And then swap the hands over. Do the same movement with your right foot rolling in and out. Your left foot is relaxed. Your left knee is out to the side. And with your left hand on the head, rolling the head in and out with the palm of your hands moving your head. Is it matching the rhythm of your foot? Can you break it? Break that rhythm? So maybe you're turning your head to the left as the arch of the foot lifts as you roll onto the outside edge, and maybe you're rolling the foot in, the inside edge, and you turn your head to the right. Does that mean that you hold your breath when you do that? Does it make a difference? Oh, let's see, come back, rest, let it all go, stretch your legs out. Ah, breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. That's nice. Notice the ground underneath you, how your heels now are noticing the ground with your legs out straight. Do they feel different? Does one leg feel different to the other? Then come back to bending both of your knees. Bring your feet and your knees closer together. Let both knees just gently fall over to the left. And bring them back to the middle. And again, let both knees fall over to the left. They might not go very far, and that's totally fine. So if you did start with a small movement, you just notice what's happening in your feet. Slight shifting of the weight in your feet onto the outside edge of your left foot and the inside edge of your right foot. And then you come back. And then can you turn your head in the opposite direction? Can you look towards your right as your knees go to your left? And then come back to the middle. And again, the movement doesn't have to be huge. We're talking like it could be millimeters. And if you're feeling any discomfort, then imagine the movement. You could do a whole session on imagining movement. Wouldn't sell as many DVDs probably as some kind of 20-minute core workout. Feel the burn. Just lying and imagining something. You probably will get a lot more out of it. Put a bet on that, I think. And then come back to the middle. And then let your knees gently fall out to the right. And then come back without moving your head to start. Notice how the weight shifts on the outside edge of the right foot and the inside edge of your left foot. Very small movement. Notice how you breathe when you're doing this. Are you breathing out when the knees go? You're breathing in when you come back. Could you try that in a different way? Could you breathe in as the knees go and breathe out as they come back? Quite nice to change the breath pattern every now and again, just to sense the difference. You can sense other areas of your body when you change the breath pattern. And then start to move your head. If you're not moving it already. So as your knees go to the right, you turn your head to the left. Then you come back to the middle. Are you breathing out when you move everything? Could you breathe in when you move everything out? And then you breathe out when you come back to the middle. Maybe you could take 2 or 3 breaths with one movement. And then you could take 2 or 3 breaths as you come back. Really slow down that movement. And then come back and rest. Let your legs go. Let it all hang out for a moment. Take a rest, take a break. And as you take a rest and take a break, you notice how you're breathing for a moment. You notice your breath as you rest, as you pause between these movements. You notice the length of your legs, ground beneath you. Notice the difference of the texture that you might be feeling now of the ground underneath you compared to how it was when you first started. Maybe we've woken up a few things now, maybe you're more aware. Can you notice how your right heel is resting on the floor compared to your left? Is it different to how it was when we first started? And then just bring your attention to that right leg for a moment. Can you allow the right heel to roll onto the outside edge, which means your whole of your foot rolls out. So your weight is on the outside edge of that right heel. And then it comes back to the middle. And you'll get to a point where, without forcing it, without holding your breath, taking it slow and steady, as that foot rolls onto the outside edge of your heel, that you'll feel that if, in order to help a movement, in order to help it go a little bit further, you might need to bend your knee. So allow that to happen. So let your right foot roll out onto the outside edge of your right heel until you feel, in order to let the foot go further, bend your right knee as it goes out to the side, and let your knee keep bending until it comes up as far as it will go, keeping the outside edge of your right foot on the floor, and then lengthen the leg out again and let it go. So you're back to where you started. And let the right foot then roll out again. So you're onto the outside edge of your right heel. Bend your right knee. If you need to bend your knee, because imagine that your knee is pulling your foot upwards in the direction of your armpit, not off the floor, but in the direction of your ear or your armpit. And now imagine that right knee is pushing your foot away. Lengthen your leg out and bringing it back to where you started. So your right foot rolls out, outside edge, until you feel you need to bend your knee to pull that, encourage that foot to follow, and then it pushes it away and lengthens out, and then let it go. And notice how, just in those few simple movements, how that right leg was different to your left. Maybe up in the pelvis, maybe in your rib cage, maybe even up in the side of your face, because remember the fascia just travels, it's connected. The fascia in your feet are connected to your pelvic floor, diaphragm, neck, jaw, head. Nothing in your body works on its own in isolation. It's all connected. And so with that thought, let the outside edge of your left foot roll out and then come back in. So the foot rolls out and then it comes back like it's waving. Notice if it feels easier on this side or if it feels a little bit trickier. Remember, you're not really using too much effort at the moment. It's quite a simple, slow, steady movement. So you don't need to hold your breath or clench your jaw. And sometimes even doing a simple, steady movement, we could be holding a breath or clenching our jaw without realizing it. So the next time you roll your foot out, in order to get out a little bit further, could you allow your knee to bend? Just feel that you have to bend your knee in order to have the foot resting on the outside edge, and bend your knee further so it comes up in towards the left side of your arm in that direction. You don't touch your armpit, but going in that direction of your armpit or your ear. And feel that the knee is bringing the foot with it, and then allow the foot then to lengthen out again so the knee feels like it's pushing the foot back away until the leg is out straight and you're back to where you started. So you're back to the foot being just relaxed and in the middle. Pause before you do the next movement. So you don't in a rush to do each, trying to get all the reps in. And then gently roll the foot out. Allow your knee to feel that it has to bend in order to go further. And then the knee feels like it's pulling the foot up. And then it gently pushes the foot away until the leg goes out straight and you're back to where you started, and you pause and then you do it again. So earlier in the session I said about sometimes we might feel that in order to go slowly we don't think that we're doing enough, and that can come from conditioning when we were kids, being told that we should be doing things, clean up your room quickly, get your homework done quickly, get a reward, all this kind of stuff. So in order to feel that and to slow down and notice, sometimes we feel that we're not doing enough and we're not going to get enough benefit. But the fact the opposite is true. You find you get more benefit the slower you go, more awareness, more connection, and then you can find that your brain and nervous system can make changes then, because it's more aware of what's going on without always constantly going to your compensation pattern. Okay, let it all go. Stretch your legs out. Let it relax for a moment. Take a pause, take a rest, take a break. Notice your breath. Notice the length of your legs. Notice the back of your legs, what's touching the ground and what isn't, where the gaps are, how your feet are resting. The length of your legs, where you sense them beginning and ending now, to how they were when we began. You're more aware of your hips now, pelvis, lower back maybe, rib cage, maybe all the way up into your neck from the earlier movement in your head. Notice your breath. And just gently allow your feet to flex. They're still out long, but as if your feet were standing on the floor. Allow them to bend and point, flex and point. Just really from the back of the foot. So without using your toes, could you flex your foot and then point your foot? Not overworking your toes, just finding the ankles. And can you just do that on your right foot? So your left foot has a moment of relaxation, just the right foot bending, pointing. How do you breathe when you do this? Could you change that breath pattern? Let it go. Let your right foot have a moment of rest and let your left foot bend, flex and point on the ankle, relaxing your toes. And how do you breathe when you do this? Could you change that breath pattern? And then let it go. Bend your knees so your feet can feel the floor again. Roll over onto your side. And when you feel ready, use your hands to gently push yourself up to sitting, where you can stay for a moment, or if you wish to come up to standing, if you feel ready, slowly come up to standing so you don't feel dizzy. And then you can use your new found feet, your curiosity and your outside edges and your inside edges. Notice as you walk around how moving your feet, experimenting, being curious about how your feet contact the ground and the earth that you are living on. Happy practicing.